This one's for you, tube.
Tower defense is a genre that can be extremely difficult to do right, and there are a lot of different approaches to it. You can go with the standard, traditional top-down view, a third-person perspective, or even something more like a first-person shooter. You can give the player an avatar and require them to physically place the towers in the world, or you can make them an omnipotent god capable of throwing towers wherever they want. With all the different design choices and the landmines associated with making each one of them, it's kind of a wonder that good tower defense games ever get made, especially when it comes to making one that looks a lot like what people expect console games to look like. But Iron Brigade, or as you may know it from an earlier pre-copyright challenged life, Trenched, manages to pull it out in a way that tower defense games not set in an overhead view rarely manage to. But to understand why Iron Brigade works, we have to talk about why those other games often don't. And more often than not, that element is some sort of repetitiveness. Tower defense games live and die by progression, a gradual introduction of new towers to use and new enemies to use them against. And pretty much every tower defense game I've ever played demonstrates at least a basic understanding of that fact. But when you're making a tower defense game from a first or third person perspective, you usually decide to include some sort of basic weapon, an attack to use, that supplements the towers that the player has set up. And a lot of developers choose to simply give the player a single weapon, one thing to use throughout the entirety of the game. The variety in towers and enemies remain, but you're still shooting the same weapon, one that inevitably becomes a pea shooter by the end. Iron Brigade avoids that problem not just by giving you different weapons, but by giving you the opportunity to create entirely different mechs depending on what the mission is. Sniper rifles, machine guns, artillery cannons, grenade launchers, the list goes on. And the game doesn't stop with weapon variety on your mechs. It also severely limits the number of towers you can bring with you to any mission, depending on what kind of mech you bring with you. You can have a lot of weaponry to directly assault enemies, or you can have a lot of towers to do it indirectly. You can't have both. The implementation of that balance between directly controlled weapons and the towers makes Iron Brigade significantly more enjoyable than most directly controlled tower defense games like it. But like practically every Double Fine game ever made, it has a ton of charm as well. Iron Brigade is set in a world that never really moved beyond the First World War. It might be several decades later and you might be fighting evil TV monsters unleashed by some sort of horrific radio broadcast, but everything is still based around trenches, the, quote, safest place a soldier can be. After all, you can only get hurt if you get out of the trench. Your mech is even referred to as a mobile trench. Oh, and everything, I mean everything, has legs, including the aircraft carriers. That aesthetic really matches well with the gameplay, and that set of definitively Double Fine aesthetics matched with excellently well done tower defense gameplay makes this a game that anyone even remotely interested in that sort of game should check out. Every Friday I look at a game that was either ignored when it came out or has been forgotten since. Games that people have missed. If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see the latest videos. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button, and thanks for watching.